Is Lauren Sugarman. He is a seasoned senior executive with diverse experiences across direct C-level operating experience and investment banking and principal investing. He's the CEO and director of METAVERSE Group. Prior to that, Lauren was the CEO of WellPoint Health Services for 9 years, which he grew to 250 people, and completed and integrated 7 acquisitions, and ultimately was sold to CloudMD, which I remember, which happened not very long ago. Welcome, Lauren, to the stage.
Just let them know that hashtag, and then we'll start.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me here, Cotter, today, and thank you all for giving me the chance to speak to you. It's my pleasure to chat. Not working there, but working here. So before I get started, and I do my little commercial on METAVERSE Group, I'll just tell you a little bit about my background and why I think it's somewhat relevant to why I'm here today. I was a technology banker for 15 years, and I did that in the mid-1990s, and some of what David was talking about today. I had the opportunity to take many dot-com companies public, including working with one that probably we all have known that wasn't a Brampton company, but is a Waterloo company called BlackBerry. And so I've had a chance to see this before, and I'm quite excited about what the opportunities that Web3 and Metaverse bring us. So who is METAVERSE Group? You can read the slide. We're really an integrated Web3 technology platform. So we have a Web3 agency business that helps companies and brands enter the metaverse. We have a gaming studio that makes those dreams come alive in these 3D areas, whether that's a metaverse or NFT project. And last but not least, we're building out our own proprietary technology to make it easier for brands to embrace Web3. Some of the examples, some of the things that we've done recently, you might have read about Forever 21. There was a Decentraland Fashion Week held last March. We built the Forever 21 store. On average, people came and spent 27 minutes in it, so really sticky, wonderful experience. We had about 3,000 people for a DJ show we held in that store. We sold wearables, so designs of Forever 21, and it created about 74 million media impressions just Forever 21 for that. One of the things that we're big believers in is the integration of the physical world and the digital world. And so the next kind of interesting thing that we did was Miami Fashion Week. It's a real world fashion show that happens at the end of May. We held a runway show during that, and what we did though was we live streamed the content from Miami Fashion Week into their building, L'Atelier, that was live in Decentraland. It gives you some views of some of the stuff that we've done today. So what is Web3? You heard David talk a little bit about it. What it means to me is empowerment for the creators. Today, the web is really controlled by 5 big companies that we know. Hopefully none of them are in the room: Amazon, Google, etc., Facebook. And at the end of the day, this is a chance for us, which is kind of how I saw Web 1, to really get back in the creators to create our own economies using the internet and the technologies that are being provided to us. As David said earlier, Web 1, static. I remember reading my magazines and newspapers. Most people thought I was crazy in those days. Why would you do that? You've got a physical thing. Who needs this internet thing? Web 2 came along, and what you saw was it became much more engaging. So you had all our social media apps that we all love and spend, I don't know how many hours a day on, start to spend less time on TV, start to do many more things with it, really making it much more wonderful. And then on top of it, we had wireless. We haven't talked a little bit about wireless here, but that wireless piece was a huge change because we now all have our mobile phones, and it engaged a whole bunch of users that didn't have access to computers. So we onboarded billions of people onto the internet. And then last but not least is Web3. And so the simple example I'll leave you with is today YouTube's revenue was about $30 billion of ad revenue. So how much went to the creators who are ultimately putting the content on the platform? Only 15 billion. So why can't we put that content on our own platform and bring those eyeballs to our own content and gain that ourselves instead of platforms like YouTube taking that away from us? So some great examples of how the metaverse and Web3 come together. One of my favorite ones is there's something called Sophia app on our space, Insomnium, which is a VR platform. Really what it is a university-type platform. It's bringing together students. It's a UK-based education, so it's certified by the United Kingdom. So if you can't get education in some third world country, or Ukraine as an example, they have students from Ukraine or other places, it's an opportunity to get a certified, gamified education. I frankly wish I have a 13 and 15-year-old, they were doing that instead of how we got education during COVID on Zoom in this province. So great example of much more interactive, much more gamified, really gets the students going. It's a real world example of how this can work. Another great example is, as it said in my bio, my background was in health tech previous to this for about 9 years. And one thing that we had a lot of issues with was mental health. And so what I learned through that piece is a lot of us don't want to go and sit in waiting rooms, don't want to see our friends in those waiting rooms when we go for a mental health appointment. We don't want to see the doctor necessarily. And so there's a company called MindEasy, for example, that is created, it actually launched on World Mental Health Day just at the beginning of October. It launched its store, and it's avatars. And the avatars, you have avatars represented by social workers or other mental health professionals that are talking to you as an avatar. Much more engaging atmosphere, much easier for you to go in, to allow you to talk about those mental issues without necessarily having to see the people. So there's so many ways where we can interact and engage using technologies like this, which is where the opportunity comes from. So this is one of my favorites, talking about entertainment. This was the Forever 21 store on the far right that I mentioned earlier, where we held that DJ show. But to give you some examples of some other companies and what they've done is Patron, which is owned by Bacardi this summer in Decentraland, had a store where you went to their website or went to the Patron website, you hopped on, you got jumped into Decentraland, there's a bartender there, he talks to you, he goes, you need to gather these through a scavenger hunt, you need to gather these ingredients. So you gather those ingredients, you get them, you go through to the next, there were 3 different sites, 3 different types of drinks that you built using Patron, and ultimately you were put into I'm losing my train of thought on the word, but put into a raffle so that you got a chance to win a trip to Mexico. So the great thing about it is multiple things, so you bring the physical world together, you get a chance to enter a raffle and actually go and see the distillery where they make the tequila. And on top of it, I got to make the real drink at home. Kind of a fun, really fun experience. Another one was the Samsung store for CES. Great example of, again, they took their New York iconic store, they put it in Decentraland. During CES at the beginning of the year, they live streamed the content from CES into that Decentraland store. So if you didn't have a chance to go to CES, it's a great way to see it. They held a live DJ show in their New York store. Again, live streamed it into the Decentraland store, and that was, again, another great example where you got to participate and have fun with Samsung. Very successful, huge amount of people attended those types of events. And the last one, which is one of my favorites, is Jimmy John's. So Jimmy John's had something called a Meta Sandwich, and you went into their store, and again, the same type of thing. You got to pick the ingredients, and they would actually physically deliver that to your house. So you'd get your sandwich that you put together, and they voted on what were the most popular sandwiches, and those ultimately made the menu of Jimmy John's. So a chance to input to real life stuff where you're actually changing their menu. Pretty cool stuff. So this is, I've talked a lot about metaverse and metaverse applications. This is really, I'm going to talk a little bit about non-fungible assets here, or digital assets as I refer to them. So we talked about, David also talked a little bit about that, but at the end of the day, there's been a ton of PFP projects, as we refer to them, just digital pictures, for lack of a better way of saying it. And lots of companies and corporations have talked about this stuff. But what is much more valuable is that these digital assets replace currencies, and they're going to be typically, but not always, linked to physical goods. And there's many different things that you can do with them. So you could use them for a university degree or a college degree and actually prove that you have a true certified degree. You can use them in a supply chain management application where it's attached to a car part or attached to my shirt or other things like that. And so there's lots of opportunities with these NFTs. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but
we certainly have lots of stuff ahead of us. So what is Ecom 3? So Ecom 3, we had the bricks and mortar era that we all know about, where we have the e-commerce, true e-commerce, online shopping that we all know about. And a great example of Ecom 3 is this Beeple picture. So this sold for $69 million in an auction using Sotheby's. And we believe that if companies don't embrace what Ecom 3 can do for you, they're going to be left behind like they have been left behind in previous generations. The laggards that didn't embrace online shopping are not going to be there to embrace this, and you're going to see an evolution of how you're selling your goods and how you're going about to monetize your businesses. So continuing along that path, that avatar, my green friend, as I refer to him, as I kind of dressed today, very well-dressed group here. My daughter, she comes and she helps me dress to make sure I look okay and appropriate for these conferences that I speak at. I'm not sure I get it right most of the time. She'll ask me today when I go home, did I get it right? But it's obviously important to me how I look. No different in the digital world. You're going to care about how that avatar looks as well. And that green avatar sticks out nicely. I kind of like the way he looks. In the middle was the Forever 21, great example of a reverse example, actually. So they had these black beanies that they were selling in the digital world as NFTs. The beanie became so popular that they're now selling it in their physical stores so that you or I can buy one. I should actually be wearing one of those today to add to my outfit. And last but not least, kind of like the Jimmy John's example, is Domino's Pizza. This is a Decentraland store where they actually were able to go get your pizza and it was shipped to your house. So I can't read the slide, but actually I can read the slide. There's some great brands here, like Nike, Dolce & Gabbana, Tiffany, etc. It just shows how people and how companies have embraced the metaverse and have embraced NFTs. And this list isn't even full anymore. There's more companies every day that are joining this. So a great opportunity and a great chance to change how you do business. And if there, an example of this, so you got the $185 million is the actual income that Nike has generated with NFTs, with the sale of this one shoe. It's just a digital shoe, nothing more. 1.3 billion represents the secondary sales. So Nike has taken a percentage of the secondary sales, typically 8 to 10%. There's slight variations on the shoes, and they made 185 million. But it's transacted so many times that shoe has created 1.3 billion just for a digital good. Can you imagine when it's attached to physical goods and what you can truly do that? One of my favorite pictures, I'll pick on the little car on the left, Lamborghini. So Lamborghini has announced that, and there are other car companies that are doing this as well, but Lamborghini has announced that they're going to attach NFTs to their parts so that when you go and get your Lamborghini serviced or you need a new part for your Lamborghini, you actually know it is a real good, a real Lamborghini part, and you're not, being taken for by a fake part. There's many examples like that where, you could do it with Birkin bags, you can do it with Rolex watches, just many other high value physical goods where you want to ensure authenticity. So this is a great example of one of the many ways the metaverse and NFT will continue to evolve and impact your lives. Another one is that we're big on is NFT loyalty, right? So I'm sure you've read about Starbucks, or maybe you haven't. So Starbucks has announced a new loyalty program based on NFTs. They're not calling them NFTs because they don't want people to think of it. They're not referring to a wallet because they want to onboard so many more people who don't want to use wallets. Even though there might be a wallet behind it, you or I don't need to know there's a wallet. So they've called them Odysseys, and you're going to go and collect these Odysseys and go on different journeys. And those journeys, as you complete those journeys, you'll get more and more NFTs in your app or whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, that's going to allow you to have real life experiences that are very different than just getting a free cup of coffee or a free sandwich or whatever it is that you typically get with your loyalty program. But again, a way to increase or improve your touch points with your customers and increase the utility with your customers. My favorite example around this is we all hopefully travel or are now traveling post-COVID. And so at the end of the day, if you look at Expedia, Travelocity, they're owned by one company. And the brands themselves, the hotels, Marriott, Westin, Starwood, whatever, they don't own the customer. This is a chance for those companies to get the customer back because they can directly link to their communities as opposed to being as opposed to the intermediaries taking away those customers from them. And last but not least, we call this live, we use live NFT galleries, but I'll give you an example of what this slide kind of means to me. Is at the end of the day, this slide is really about communities in a way that you overlay different media on that. So what I'm trying to say in English is Snoop holds a concert in Sandbox as an example. You can watch Snoop talk to you about the concert through Twitch or Twitter or other social media applications. Wouldn't that be really cool? You're sitting there, you're watching this concert, you can't make it there, but now you get to hear the star himself talk about what he's doing, why he's playing this song, the fun part, how he created the song. Same thing with an art gallery. Could you imagine walking through that art gallery and whoever that artist is, you know, he or she is sitting there telling you why he or she drew this, how they drew this, what they were thinking at the time, and these are the types of applications we're going to see. So I think it's the beginning of an evolution, and I think hopefully you're going to hear a lot more about this obviously today, and just want to share my thoughts. So thank you very much, and appreciate the time.